Hey guys, Strugvox here. It's currently like 9:30 at night while I'm recording this, but I won't put this up until tomorrow morning. That being said, welcome to my Summer of Steven MEGATHEORY. So basically, literally right before I started recording this video, I was just sitting down and thinking about the episodes, and then I think I realized how this is all going to play out. So here's my predictions from episode to episode and how most of them are all connected. Now keep in mind, any leaks that have happened before Saturday, I have no idea of. So if this ends up being true or ends up being wrong, I didn't know ahead of time. So it all begins with Steven floats. We've already seen this episode in France, so we know story-wise this brings us back to Beach City. And we know that the episode is about Steven's ability to float. He jumps too high, gets stuck in the sky, and has a series of misadventures with the gems. And of course, he ends up landing safely back on the ground. But this takes us to Drop Beat Dad. And from the leaks we've seen so far, my theory is actually holding up to be pretty true. Steven's hoping Sour Cream put on a show, although Yellowtail, Onion's dad and Sour Cream's stepdad, doesn't approve. But despite this, Yellowtail still supports Sour Cream at his shows. And things get complicated when Sour Cream's biological dad, Marty, comes back. So now Sour Cream is dealing with daddy issues, Vidalia isn't happy, and Yellowtail becomes very protective of Sour Cream. Because even though Sour Cream is Yellowtail's stepson, I feel like Yellowtail's the kind of guy who doesn't treat him like a stepson, but just a regular son. As far as we've known, Marty has not been there for Sour Cream at all. So just because he's his biological dad doesn't mean he's his real dad, in terms of parenting. So even though this is looking to be an episode full of feels, how does this advance the overall plot? The episode will end with Marty revealing to Greg that he's rich. But how? The last time Greg seen Marty, he kicked him out of the van on the way to Empire City. But he never actually fired Marty. So what do I think? Marty tried to redeem himself, but also make a quick buck by selling one of Greg's songs. And well, he did. And all these years later, it's accumulated a lot of money. Which brings us to Mr. Greg, the musical episode. So now that Greg has all this money, he doesn't really know what to do with it. And Steven decides he wants to buy gifts for all the gems, starting with Pearl. Her gift, a trip to Empire City, to show her the finer things in life. And Pearl does seem like the type who enjoyed Broadway. So Greg, Steven, and Pearl go to Empire City, and they're actually having fun. Greg and Pearl are getting along. But because of what happened between Rose and Pearl, her resentment towards Greg still shows. And it comes to light in all this fun. She doesn't want to get close to Greg because of it. Thus, this episode will begin to bring closure to that. And the episode ends on a good note, with a positive looking future between Greg and Pearl. And this brings us to Too Short to Ride. Steven's gift to Peridot? A tablet. Steven still feels kinda bad for Lapis destroying the tape recorder. And her loss of limb enhancers, which had a monitor, so Steven gives her the next best thing. Peridot decides to tag in on Steven's gift to Amethyst, a trip to Funland. But because of the new Funland rules, him, Amethyst, and Peridot, who decides to tag along, are too short to ride the roller coasters. Peridot's not happy about this, and while Steven and Amethyst aren't torn up about it, they still decide to appease Peridot. So Amethyst tries to show her life hacks. Take advantage of being a gem in human culture. This includes shape-shifting, which Peridot tries but doesn't really succeed at all the way. So this is essentially an Amethyst and Peridot bonding episode. And yes, the more I think about it, the more I think it's likely that Smoky Quartz is Peridot and Amethyst. So maybe to ride the roller coaster, Peridot fuses with Amethyst. The only issue I have with this is that Peridot and Steven have done everything together. So unless the three of them fuse to become Smoky, I wouldn't really be satisfied. I mean, new fusions are always welcome, but under those circumstances, I'd raise an eyebrow. And then there's the new Lars, which has the description, Steven analyzes Lars's life. Okay, let's just cut to the chase. We know Lars can be a pretty bad person, even if he doesn't try to be. He screwed over Sadie and Steven so many times, although he has received the short end of the stick himself sometimes. So Steven and Lars sit down and Steven's just like, hey man, you've been messing up lately. And Lars strives to be a better person. And he struggles with it until something major happens. Maybe another encounter with a gem with Sadie, in which Sadie's in serious trouble. since we know she's the only person that can bring out the good in Lars, we follow this up with Beach City Drift, which has the synopsis: Steven and Connie battle their biggest foe in a car race. Okay, so obviously, like I stated in my video from earlier, Steven and Connie are going to run into Kevin again, and they're going to fuse into Stevani and raise him to show him what for. But I hope there's actual consequences to this, because it kind of sends a bad message to kids. Oh, if you can get away with looking like you're old enough to drive, you can drive without a license. But some of the funniest Steven Universe moments are the ones that just kind of say, screw the morals. So I won't be upset if they don't do that. Then the next episode is when things start to get interesting. Restaurant Wars, where Steven sells a rivalry between owners. A part of me believes this is between Beach City Walk Fries and Fish Stew Pizza, or Fish Stew Pizza and another place. Although I'm hoping for the former because I really miss Petey. He hasn't had an episode to himself since Frybo. I want to catch up with the little dude. And these are the two major restaurants that we keep seeing in Steven Universe. And this episode leads into Kiki's Pizza Delivery Service. Now, this episode has been long awaited. Not only has it been said to be a huge homage to Studio Ghibli and all things anime, the voice actors said this is kind of an emotional episode, and one of their favorites as well. And the synopsis is Steven helps Kiki with nightmares. So, assuming this comes off the heels of Restaurant Wars, the resolution of that episode has Kiki really stressed out. But how can Steven help? Well, we've never really known the extent of Steven's ability to enter people's dreams, enter minds. We've seen him done it with Lapis, the Watermelon Stevens, and the Cluster. Although, I'm gonna kind of remove the Watermelon Stevens from this equation, just because Steven created them, so it's not that surprising he can control them. But with Lapis / Jasper / Malachite, and the Cluster, and now Kiki, what do these all have in common? They're distressed. So Steven can help people, not just gems, but I believe any living being, if they're in a state of emotional stress. He can enter their minds and try to help them, which he'll do with Kiki in this episode. But why is this so important? Why is this episode going to impact the plot? Well, this is the episode before Monster Reunion, which has a simple, discreet synopsis: an old friend returns. And of course, if you guys remember the episode Monster Buddies, Steven unbubbled Centipedal. So, in Kiki's Pizza Delivery Service, Steven is gonna realize the extent of his dream powers. And he goes to Pearl, Garnet, and Amethyst and tells them he thinks he's found a way to heal Centipedal from inside the mind. Does he succeed? Well, I can't really be sure. With all the sudden introductions of gems, I'm convinced they're trying to gather a team for a possible confrontation with Yellow Diamond before the end of the season. So, from that narrative standpoint, it makes sense that he would heal Centipedal. Could the episode move at a pace where he can fail and try again and succeed? Possibly. For all we know, Steven can nail it on his first try. In half of the episode, we have an uncorrupted Centipedal. But there's one major reason why I do think he'll succeed, because the episode after this one is Alone at Sea. So Steven's giving everyone gifts, right? His gift to Lapis: a day out at sea. She's finally done taking her break from water, and she's actually really enjoying herself. They're having a fun time on the boat when they get attacked by a monster. Obviously, it's a corrupted gem, but then they realize that's just not any corrupted gem, that's Jasper. And that's when they realize, when Alexandrite and Malachite fought, Jasper's gem got cracked, and now she's become corrupted. But Steven just healed Centipedal, so this should be no problem, right? Well, there actually is a problem. Not only is Lapis really against helping Jasper, Steven doesn't have that emotional attachment to Jasper to help her. He sympathized with the Cluster. He sympathized with Lapis. He sympathized with Centipedal. He cared for all of them, but Jasper? Jasper hurt Steven. She hurt all of the gems. So he's not really sure what to do. And this episode ends on a sour note. He's managed to calm down Jasper, but he doesn't know what to do with her. And he doesn't want to tell the gems, which leads to Greg the babysitter, in which Steven hasn't told the gems about the corrupted Jasper yet. So he begs Greg to babysit her, and hilarity ensues. And ultimately, the gems find out and attempt to bubble Jasper, but she escapes, which leads us to Gem Hunt. So the other day I was just browsing the internet and I found a thread on the Steven Universe wiki. And they found some unseen backgrounds, and one of them was this snowy place with a giant wailing stone. In the promo image for Summer Steven, we see Steven bundled up as if he's going somewhere snowy. So, what do I believe? In Gem Hunt, Jasper, still corrupted, is trying to go to the Wailing Stone to contact Yellow Diamond. Now, Steven, who now believes in Jasper, just wants to help her. And he does, and in this episode, Jasper becomes uncorrupted. Steven and Jasper are finally on enough of an emotional wavelength for Steven to heal her. And then how does Jasper repay him? Well, she kind of gives him the middle finger and uses the Wailing Stone to contact Yellow Diamond. She sends a message to come to Earth to help her, that the crystal gems are still alive, that rose quartz is on Earth, and boy, oh boy, the gems do not take this lightly. The countdown begins. How long until Yellow Diamond makes it on Earth? And Jasper escapes. Now, after this point, as of the time I'm making this video, we don't know what episodes are airing in what order. Now, the Crewniverse said that episode guide was missing some episodes and out of order, so take all this with a grain of salt. This is just what I think will happen. And I like to believe, at least up to Gem Hunt, I'm on to something. Now, this is all speculation, and obviously as the Summer of Steven progresses, I can revise parts of this, and see where I went wrong and went right. But what do you guys think? What do you guys believe will happen? Comment your thoughts down below. And if you enjoyed this video, please like and subscribe. Awestruck Box, signing out, and see you tomorrow for the Summer of Steven.